They say that a person's greatness is determined by their thoughts, and if you think about it, that really makes sense. We've all heard stories of people who started with nothing and went on to change the world. People like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, or Jeff Bezos. What set them apart wasn't just money or resources. It was the way they thought. Napoleon Hill once said, "What you think about, you become." Powerful words, right? But here's a question. If that's true, why do so many people still struggle? Why do so many fail to see their own potential? Today, I want to share a story with you. It's simple, but it carries a lesson you'll never forget. Once upon a time, at a very busy train station sits a beggar. His life is the same every single day. The sound of trains screeching, whistles blowing, passengers rushing up and down the platform. Some are heading home, others to work, some off to brand new adventures. The air is thick with the smell of diesel and hot street food. It's noisy, chaotic, and alive with movement. He sits on that cold, hard platform, stretches out a hand, and waits for someone, anyone, to drop a few coins. That's how he survives. A few coins for food, maybe enough for a blanket at night. Nothing more. Now, he's not a bad person. He's not lazy. Life just happened. Somewhere along the way, opportunities slipped away, and this station became his world. One day, as the trains rolled in and the crowd thickened, something different happened. The beggar spotted a man stepping onto the platform. This man looked nothing like him. Sharp suit, polished shoes, briefcase in hand, confident stride. Everything about him screamed success. The beggar thought, "This man must be rich. If I ask him, surely he'll give me more than most." So, with hope in his eyes, he stretched out his hand. "Spare some change, sir?" But instead of pulling out money, the businessman paused. He looked at the beggar, not with pity, not with annoyance, but with something else, something that felt like a challenge. And then he asked a question the beggar had never heard before. "Do you always just take from others? Have you ever given anything to anyone?" The beggar froze. His hand trembled. He had no idea what to say. Nobody had ever asked him that before. Confused, he stammered, "Sir, I'm just a beggar. I have nothing to give." The businessman shook his head gently. A faint smile played on his lips. "If you believe you have nothing to give, then you also have no right to ask. I believe in exchange. If you offer me something, I'll gladly give you something in return. But if you offer nothing, I cannot help you either." And with that, the man boarded his train and disappeared into the crowd. The beggar was left standing there, hands still outstretched, but now empty in a different way. Those words echoed in his mind like the rumble of a departing train. "If you believe you have nothing to give, then you also have no right to ask." He thought of the words the stranger told him. The beggar sat in silence long after the crowd had cleared. The businessman's words pierced deeper than any hunger he had ever felt. That night, as he lay on the station floor staring at the cracked ceiling, he couldn't stop replaying the conversation. What do I have to give? What do I have to offer? Days passed. For the first time in years, he didn't beg, he just thought. He watched people as they moved through the station. Mothers with children, students with heavy bags, men and women rushing to catch trains. He noticed their smiles, their frowns, the small things that lit up their day. Then one morning, something caught his eye. By the railway tracks, hidden among the dirt and gravel, a patch of wildflowers bloomed. Bright, colorful, full of life. He stared at them for a long time, and then it hit him. What if, instead of just asking, I give something back? So, carefully, he picked a handful of flowers. That day, when someone dropped a coin in his hand, he smiled and offered them a flower in return. At first, people were surprised. Some laughed. Others paused, holding the flower gently as if it were the most precious gift they'd received all day. And the beggar noticed something remarkable. When he gave flowers, people gave him more money. When the flowers ran out, their generosity faded. It was true. People love to give when they also receive. Day after day, he repeated this, collecting flowers, sharing them, and slowly, something began to change, not just in his pocket, but inside of him. He wasn't just a beggar anymore. He was giving, he was trading, he was creating value. Weeks later, the businessman returned to the station, and this time, the beggar rushed forward, not with an empty hand, but with a bouquet of flowers. Today I have something to give you. If you give me money, I'll give you flowers in return. The businessman smiled, reached into his pocket, and handed him some cash. He accepted the flowers with a nod. Now you understand the value of exchange, the businessman said. You are no longer a beggar, you are a businessman. Those words struck the man deeper than any coin ever could. For the first time in years, he stood tall. That very day, he made a decision. He walked away from the station. He would never beg again. 6 months passed. The man, no longer a beggar, now ran a small flower business. What started with wildflowers by the tracks had grown into something real. He had suppliers, customers, even plans to expand. And then, fate brought him back to the same railway station. 2 well-dressed men stood shaking hands. One of them turned, squinted, and said, "Wait, do I know you?" The other man smiled wide. "Yes, we met here twice before. Once, when you refused to give me money, and again, when you bought flowers from me." The businessman's eyes widened. "Wait, you were the beggar?" The flower seller laughed warmly. "Yes, but not anymore. Today I run a successful flower business, and I'm traveling to expand it." The businessman was astonished. "That's incredible. What changed?" The flower seller replied with a calm certainty. "You taught me one of life's greatest truths. We only receive when we give. That day I realized I was never really a beggar. I was a businessman all along. I just had to see myself that way." And with that, the 2 men shook hands once more, not as beggar and businessman, but as equals. The truth is simple, yet powerful. Life is shaped by how we see ourselves. If you believe you are small, you will stay small. If you believe you have nothing, you'll live as if you have nothing. But the moment you recognize your own value, the moment you realize that you do have something to give, the world begins to respond differently. This story isn't really about a beggar or a businessman. It's about you, about me, about all of us. How many times have we sat back, waiting for life to hand us something, waiting for someone else to notice us, to help us, to give us an opportunity? But maybe the question we should be asking is, what do I have to give? Because here's the truth. Giving isn't always about money. Sometimes it's a smile. Sometimes it's a kind word. Sometimes it's a talent, a skill, an idea. You always have something inside you worth sharing. And when you share it, when you give it freely, doors begin to open. The beggar's life changed the moment he stopped asking, "What can I get?" and started asking, "What can I give?" And so can yours. So let me leave you with this thought. What flowers do you have to offer the world? Maybe it's your creativity. Maybe it's your kindness. Maybe it's your determination. Whatever it is, don't hide it. Share it. Because when you do, you won't just change your own life. You'll inspire others too. Remember, change your thoughts, and you change your future.